So you know by now, there's some swearing, some spoilers, and then some soup, some onion soup, as well as some opinions. They vary in length and size, and as per usual, color maybe. I don't know.
Sound color.
If you've got synesthesia, maybe some of them will be brown.
That'd be amazing.
Maybe some of them purple.
Like if you're listening to the show and this doing anything synesthetically for you, then definitely let us know. That'd be really, really interesting. You can send an email to 250reasons@gmail.com.
Hello and welcome to 250 Reasons to Stay Indoors. I'm Jordan.
I'm Keiran.
And this is the podcast.
Come on, Jordan.
This is the podcast where
we have a format. We have a way of doing this.
I know. This is the podcast where we watch the IMDB top 250 films. We let you know whether they were worth watching or whether we regret all of our time spent in that act. What is it we're watching this week, Keiran?
This week we are watching M, and it is number 80 on the list. It came out in the year 1931.
Oh, that was a year.
Yeah, quite a few things happened in that year.
Probably not a very good year.
As far as the years go,
yeah.
In terms of like over the 20th century, I would say it's probably not the worst one.
No.
We both know there's definitely worse ones.
What we're saying is that Nazis were about to come around.
Okay,
That's what we're getting at. for you non-history buffs out there.
I don't know how much of a history buff you have to be to know about that.
I didn't know until I watched this film.
The film.
Yeah.
Film.
Yeah.
What's going on? It's so vague. How can you get anything from it?
I can't.
How
I
can
really
you get
can't.
any single thing from it?
It gives me... I just keep thinking that it influenced Dial M for murder.
Sure.
But I don't know what that is either.
So do you reckon that M is murder? Because the poster looks a little bit like detective-y or spooky or
I feel like there's going to be something murdery about it, but that's literally just going on out on a limb.
I reckon that M, it just looks like a horror movie from the poster, but the poster is one of those proper old-timey film posters. So it's like, how much detail is there going to be? Like from what my idea of an old-timey film poster either gives you no detail at all, or it tells you everything that happens in the film.
Yeah.
Like some of them is like, there are four men and they go on a journey, on an adventure. They realize that they get money in the end, and come watch the film.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Not great, but it's all right.
Yeah. So I think this one is going to be something to do with horror, like old school horror movie.
Okay.
Maybe it's like the first ever horror movie back in 1931. Do you think it's going to be a silent film?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because we have seen one silent film, The Passion of Joan of Arc, because of this podcast. You didn't enjoy it. I thought it was all right, but still ended up staying outdoors for it. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be some good.
Yeah, I hope it's not silent. I've come to the conclusion I just can't get behind silent films. Based off of the two that I've seen.
Okay. All right, should we just go watch the film?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go watch the film.
And we're back with a couple of fast thoughts. Child murderer.
Oh, yay! Germany.
Police.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Criminals.
Underworld.
Chalk.
Investigations.
Hats.
Smoke.
Tea. No. Cognac.
Breaking into buildings.
Beggars.
Union of beggars.
No, that's it. That's
it. All right, okay. That'll do.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you, listeners, what's about to happen. I'm about to do a 15-second pitch in which I tried... Ooh, I just did a rhyme. Didn't even realise. I was so impressed with myself.
Check it out. I'm a poet. And I didn't even realise that I was poet rhyming those words.
Yeah, so I'm just going to pitch you the film in 15 seconds, see if I can get it. And it's not supposed to be any more. It's not supposed to be any less either.
That's the challenge of this game.
That's the hard thing.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, go.
It's Germany, and there's a child murderer who just gets kids and persuades them to come with him. They spend so fucking long trying to work out. There's the crooks in the underworld. They decide to go and find him. There's the police who try and find him at the same time. They basically both find him at the same time. The crooks find him, and then the police take over and take the murderer away.
Oh, Keiran!
Fuck!
Oh, you were so close. I thought you were going to get it. 16.75.
Fuck. It's that last sentence, isn't it?
It was that last sentence.
Shit.
You were ready to finish by a 14, by around 14, and I thought you were going to be early, and then you just sort of stumbled a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry. You look like you were going to get it then.
Balls.
Balls indeed.
Balls indeed, my good sir.
Balls indeed. Balls in your court. Would you like to do a synopsis?
Nice. Yes, I would.
Thank you. Okay, then. So let's just address the fact that we needed to reposition our mics.
Yep.
And
but we're here now.
Yeah, we're here, and now we're going to do a synopsis.
In Dolby definition.
In Dolby.
All right, now we're in Germany's 1931.
Yes.
Before the rise of the Nazis. Kind of had to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely no mention to them. So there's some kids who are playing like Ip Dip Do, but the rhyme is about a child murderer because the deal is that in this German city there's this child murderer who's been taking kids, and I mean there's no mention to being a paedophile, but I feel like it's there.
Well, you think he's diddling them as well as killing them?
I reckon he's diddling and killing.
Diddly killy.
I reckon.
No, Jordan, don't make jokes about that. Like that's not cool, is it?
I reckon he's diddling, killing,
but you could do it. Okay, right. Is that kind of like the thing how like black people couldn't make jokes about black people?
And so
you make jokes about killing and diddling children because you kiddle and diddle children?
Yeah, because they're all white people, right?
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. I feel like we've just really
why do we go here?
Some dirty boundaries of broadcasting.
Stop crossing my dirty boundaries, Jordan. This is grim.
Washing your dirty boundaries.
Okay. And in this little German town, they're trying to work out who the bloody hell this person is. He's leaving no cues and apparent clues, and apparently it's completely spontaneous. I was totally presumed that it's a he, because why would a woman do this thing of capturing children and murdering them? So sometimes that they get buried, and sometimes they just get left in the middle of like a field somewhere. These kids, we spend a little while trying to figure out like the kind of set in the world, and. We eventually come to the point where we realize that there's an underground scene, not like a hipster music underground scene, but like a crossover between criminal underworld and people who are legit but just like going in divey pubs and stuff. So you got the people who are legit, and you got the police, and then you got the crooks and the underworld stuff. Now there's a meeting that happens with people who are like the leaders of not the mafia, but like the underworld,
the mob bosses.
Yeah, kind of. But it's not as if they've got some mad mafia. But they own the bars and stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess they are mob bosses.
The gangsters.
How do you say that with a German accent?
I'm not even going to try.
I'm not going to go there.
I could feel my voice, like my mouth, like positioning itself to give it a go, and I'm like, I've already lost faith in myself just by how my mouth is positioning itself. Abort. Yeah.
And they are saying, hey, this is so bad for business. Like every single day there's loads of police raids, and they're just coming in checking our ID cards, and no one wants to come use our bars, and it's bullshit. And at the same time, the police are being like, we can't find the fucking murderer, we need to get some goddamn clues. So the crooks are like, I need some ideas. So the top crooks like, I need some ideas. The top police guys like, I need some ideas with this action.
With the sweeping of the hand.
We'll come back to that. And the crooks decide, okay, we just got to find this guy ourselves.
Yeah.
By hiring the Union of Beggars.
Yes.
Now, they get all the beggars in the big line, and they assign them all, because apparently beggars are not going to be assumed as criminals, and no one's going to be suspicious of them at all, and they're always around all the time.
And they'll work.
Yeah, and they will work, and there's
they don't mind what work they do, because beggars can't be choosers.
I like what yes.
To be honest,
actually, you know what? I'm really taken aback by how clever that was.
Yeah,
not because I feel like you're stupid. You're a clever man. But I'm like, that was incredibly quick, and I just want to recognize that.
I really feel like that was quite a poor joke on my behalf.
No,
I feel like you're just taking the piss.
No. I've got a lot of time for it, because you know how bad my jokes can be.
It was a Kieran Pearson level of landing strip for that one. It's like because they're beggars, yeah, and they'll work, and they don't mind what work they do. Because beggars can't be choosers.
No, you didn't have like a 5-minute story beforehand.
That's true, actually. Yeah, it was actually only a few words.
Right.
So I'm safe.
It was tolerable. Yeah. Now, these beggars who are not choosers, as we've established, they cooperate together to try and find out who the child murderer is. At the same time as the police trying to work out where the hell they can find someone. there is one guy who is a blind man, and we had previously seen a scene where there was a girl who was taken by some man. Well, it was a silhouette of a man that we saw.
A silhouette of a man.
He's a silhouette of a man.
That's just that's how when they were doing the voiceover for the trailer, just like a young girl is abducted by a silhouette of a man.
Yeah, this silhouette of a man. He offers her a balloon.
Yeah,
and when he goes,
the silhouette of a boy.
What?
The balloon is a silhouette of a boy.
That's a very good point.
Thank you.
So she's bouncing the ball, and she's got this balloon now. And the person who sold the balloon to the silhouette of a man, overheard him whistling this tune. How does it go again?
I'm not going to try and whistle it.
But can you do it or something?
Yeah.
Now, this creepy old dude has taken the girl with the balloon and killed her. That was just so grim. So I don't know.
We don't need to talk about that part. That's part for the course.
It's by the by, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the blind man overhears the whistling again.
Yeah.
And he calls out for another beggar, another homeless person, and he's like, "Oh, that whistling! Can you hear the whistling? Find that man and chase after him." And a bunch of beggars chase after him. And there's one who is seeing who we now are quite certain that we know who the child murderer is. It's this guy who they're following. And by this time, we've had enough suspects that were like, for fuck's sake, can it definitely please be this guy?
Yeah.
But for me, it wasn't exhausted. It was like, okay, I'm sure it's him. Because you hear the whistling, and that's proof enough for me. And so they're following him, and she's going into a sweet shop. They get some sweets, and the guy, one of the beggars, to identify the suspected child murderer as the suspected child murderer, he put some chalk on his hand.
Yeah,
this beggar put some chalk on his hand in the shape of an M.
Yeah.
As if to say murderer.
Yeah. And then he walks up to them and sorry, I haven't contributed to this
That's okay.
at all. So
you go ahead.
And then he sort of walks in and bumps into him, and then I don't know what he says. He's like something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm walking here," and then we see that obviously he's got the M on the back. And later on, they're going to other places, and the little girl, she refers to him as Uncle. She's like, "Uncle, you've got something on your back," and then he sees in the reflection of the mirror or the window that it's an M, and then he sees someone
in the
reflection, a beggar
get him.
spying on him, and he's like, "Oh shit! I've been rumbled."
I've been rumbled. And they run after him. He runs into a building, and he kind of escapes into this building. But all the beggars have cornered him in a way that they're certain that he's not left. Like they've got they've got the whole perimeter. They're certain that he's not left this building. It comes, and there's some kind of theatre, or is that either an office block or a theatre or something? Or no, it's not a theatre. I just got the impression that it was a theatre because there were people dressed nicely, but I wasn't sure. Anyway. They come out of this building because it's closing time. They close the gates, and the crooks break into this building.
I thought it was just like an office block type thing. People at work.
Yeah, fair enough. Actually, it's just because they had nice coats. That's all it was.
I mean, when do you wear a nice coat? You only ever wear a nice coat when you're going to the theatre.
Right. I mean, sure.
Yeah.
That checks out, isn't it?
Yeah. It checks out.
It checks out. They go into this building.
In a bunch of rooms.
And they try and figure out where the bloody hell this guy is.
Where the bloody hell has he gone?
So they're trying to break into all of the separate rooms, and they're breaking, as to not set off alarms to alert the police of their presence. They are finding different ways to go into the rooms, for example, breaking through the ceiling. And one of them overhears that the murderer is in the attic because he's been locked into the attic and he's trying to escape, and he can hear some knocking because he's bending a piece of metal to pick the lock and whatever. They find him, and just as the police have been alerted, they escape, and they take the child murderer and they bundle him into a bunch of coats, and they chuck him into a car. But there's been one of the crooks who's been left, the person who went into the ceiling. He went into the floor, which was
went into the ceiling.
You know what I'm saying? It's the floor, but it's also the ceiling. That's weird, isn't it?
The roof.
Well, no, because
the ceiling. So
he went into the floor of one room and then came down from the ceiling of the one below.
Yeah.
See how that works?
Yeah.
See how that works?
Yeah.
Okay, but he's been left there by his mates, and the police come, and he's like, "Well, you got me now." So they
I've been rumbled.
Yeah. So they interview him, And he's all like, I'm not going to tell you anything. But then they're like, actually, he's a bit of he's a bit weak-minded, and he doesn't want to get involved with any murders. They made up that this guy, they accidentally murdered someone, and he's like, okay, I'll tell you anything you want. I don't want to be involved in the murder. Honestly. No one got murdered. It was fine. Someone got punched in the face and knocked out, but it turns out that no one actually got murdered. But the police kind of made that lie to get the information out of this dude, and this dude told the police, yeah, so we were looking for the child murderer because we figured out who the fuck he was. At the same time, the police were doing their own investigation. Don't need to go into that. They kind of worked out who he was, and they were waiting for him to come home. But by this time, the crooks had already found out who it was, and they had cornered him and they chased him. So the police have worked out now where the crooks are taking the child murderer. And so, flash cut, Jordan.
Flash cut!
To an abandoned warehouse where there are like 200, 300 of the townsfolk who are all like the crooks and their families and whatever else. And like the somewhat underworld of this German city. And they are putting on a trial for the child murderer. And there's one person who's lumped with the position of being the defense for this child murderer. And
who, in his defense, does do a pretty good job.
Yeah, he does all right, actually. And the deal is the child murderer says, it's not my fault. I'm not responsible. I'm not in control. I have to give in to this impulse. It takes over me completely. When I'm doing it, I don't even remember what I'm doing. It's completely not within my control. I can't resist it. I want it to go away, but I can't let go of it. I can't resist it and everything. And people are nodding like, oh yeah, I understand what kind of an addiction or like impulse that is. Oh, that's pretty mental. But then everyone's still like, fucking kill the guy. He's a child murderer.
Yeah.
But just at the point where they go and rush him to like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, they do rush him.
They do rush him, but
quite a few times.
That's a good point. But on the last time, when they're fully like, yeah, we're definitely going to kill you now.
This time, this is the last rushing.
And just at that point, the police come in and they're like, we got you. So the police end up putting him on an actual trial.
Yeah.
We don't work out we don't see the ending of the trial.
No, but we do. Do we not? I kind of assumed that he'd been put in prison.
Oh, I mean that would make sense,
right? Yeah, but we don't know whether he gets killed or whether he's put to death. Because I'm assuming they have the death penalty over there in 1930. I mean, they probably don't care that much about killing people, considering what followed shortly after.
And so the film ends with like really abruptly with three mums being like, that won't take they say like, oh yeah, that
this won't bring our children back. We should have taken more care of our children.
Scene.
And then just one lady says, you.
What? Does she?
Yeah.
She?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah. It's like it cuts to black and you just hear one lady go, you.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you in German.
So is that like she's saying that to the murderer or something? Is that what you're presuming? Because I didn't hear that.
Don't know who she's saying it to.
Because the film just ended so quickly.
That it was basically the film the director trying to tell people that they need to look after their kids more.
Fair enough. Did you see any credits? Were there any credits for you?
I don't normally watch them anyway. So
there were no credits. It was like there was those three women saying that's not going to bring our kids back, and then boom, film ended. Like,
I was so done with the film that I just closed it as soon as it was finished. To be honest, so yeah.
End of film.
Yeah.
Jordan, hit me with some beats.
One of the things that just kind of pissed me off throughout the whole film was that there's like very little music in places. And so that was I think that was the original intent, and then apparently somewhere down the line there was someone like when it got released on video, they edited it without the director's permission and like put loads of sound and music in and stuff like that. And then when the Blu-ray came out in 2009, they took all of the stuff back out again. And then so I think that's the version that I watched where it was the original sort of silence in places.
There is a lot of silence.
It just doesn't gel with me. I think I get what he's trying to do, but I'm so used to just hearing constant sort of sound, and it didn't really build any tension for me. It just made me feel more disconnected with the film.
It was the sound effects that I was lacking,
right,
for a lot of it.
Yeah, they added sound effects and music, which sounds like what the film kind of needed.
Because all of the sound that there was all authentic sound. Like, for example, there's a point where there's a woman who's scrubbing some laundry.
Yeah.
And you hear that, or like you hear an alarm clock and stuff.
In wonderful Dolby.
Surround sound. But then the camera just goes straight to the street, and there's a big old truck that's trundling past, but you hear nothing at all.
Yeah.
And it's weird because you know that would definitely
that's
be
what
way
I mean.
louder.
It just pulls you, it grips you out of immersion.
I knew you were going to fucking say that. It makes no sense. But yeah, it kind of gripped me out of immersion. Oh my God. I literally hate myself for saying that because it just makes no sense. Yeah, but I just got into it. I just dug it after a while. But okay, tell me more.
So another one that I had was there's a scene where he has figured out that he's basically been caught and he's trying to escape, and he goes and sits down and has like a coffee. Well, no, he has 2 shots of cognac.
But the way he asked for it,
that's not even the thing that pisses me off, because I can kind of get that. Like, you're sitting there, you're like, fuck, okay, I'm stuck here. I need a coffee. Like, actually, no, fuck, I need something stronger than that. In fact, no, I need fucking the strongest thing you can give me.
Yeah.
And I need 2 of them. But no, it was the fact that he whistled.
Yes!
Like, when have you ever sat there being frustrated and you're like, oh, it just doesn't happen, does it? Like, it just does not happen.
No way. Like, because I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth relaxed enough to be able to whistle.
No, yeah, exactly.
Also, it makes no sense because he whistles when he's on his like pedo-y walk, right? And like
on the pedo walk.
He's on the pedo walk. So he's
the pedo prowl.
Right. So when he's on the pedo prowl,
the prowling of the pedo.
Oh, Jesus. He's doing his whistle. But here, he's just contemplating his life and what to do to get out of this precarious situation.
Yeah.
So, really,
it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. It's kind of adds to the character, really, for a while, because we don't hear anything from him, or we don't see his face for ages and ages and ages and ages and ages. We finally see his face. We hear his whistle a little bit more, and then we only hear him talk when he's like trying to defend his life. So it kind of adds to his character, I think.
Yeah. One of the things that pissed me off about the whistling as well was that he can't actually whistle properly.
Yeah, but it's not. He wasn't shit though. Like he could hold a tune,
right?
But there was some. I mean, have you tried? You tried whistling?
I can't do it. Yeah, I can't.
It's a high pitched whistle to whistle.
But it was just annoying that they picked a song that he couldn't whistle. But so when I looked it up, it's not even him whistling. It's overdubbed. It's the director, because the actor couldn't whistle it at all.
Oh, okay.
So, and he's like, he knew that he couldn't whistle properly, and he felt that added to it. It just annoyed me, because it was like.
But you can tell that the whole thing is that the guy's disturbed.
It just annoyed me. It like grinded on my musical ear, like hearing it like out of time and like the pitch all being wrong. It's just, and it kept on happening. It just made me upset.
Okay, all right.
It hurt me.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
But my biggest beef at the beginning of the film is there's a girl who's doing like an ip dip do thing with the German. It's in German, and they're talking about the child murderer, saying like, "Oh yeah."
Every time you say ip dip, I'm trying to. It kept on ringing some sort of bell in my head, and I've just realised that I just keep hearing ip flippy dibby.
Very good. No, she wasn't going ip flippy dibby.
Ip flippy dibby. On the inside, child murder. On the outside.
On the ones and twos. No, when she was doing ip dip do, but in German, so like I don't know, eins, zwei, drei. When she was going around the circle and pointing at the different kids, like you do when you're doing ip dip do.
Yeah.
She wasn't doing one at the time. She was like skipping one every now and then. So clearly the director was just like, can you just point round in the circle?
Can you just do whatever the fuck you want with your finger?
And it's like, well, fucking just do it properly. Do it properly.
Because I can imagine playing playground games with you must have been quite a joyous affair.
Well, yeah, do it properly. You know,
I'm not playing anymore. You're not pointing to people at the right. You were probably the person that like got really upset at the musical chairs when you could figure out that people were stopping the music intentionally.
Jordan, I was the greatest at musical chairs.
You can't be good at musical chairs.
Jordan, I was way too good at musical chairs.
No, musical chairs is the wrong one. Pass the Parcel.
Oh my God, that fucked me off so much. Let's pause it just at the right time so that everyone gets a present. And that the birthday boy / girl gets the big present at the bottom. Fuck you, I want the box of Lego at the bottom of this. I came here as a participant of this party, yeah? And I will take part and I will have equal rights. I will have equal opportunities to access every single fucking present I want.
You need to get in touch with the ombudsman.
With the what?
They're the people that deal with fairness in employment and stuff like that.
Right, okay, sure. I want to call my union and say, hey, listen, union of the parties, of the children's parties. I want there to... What there should
Could you
be,
imagine
Jordan,
if the children unionised?
It'd be brilliant. It'd be brilliant. What would be good, Jordan, is if there was a CD that the parents would just play. They wouldn't have to press pause and stuff. They just and they like the kid had like, because some kids take forever to unwrap a layer of Pass the Parcel.
Yeah, because they know what they're doing. They're not idiots.
Well, yeah, but also we all know in that circle, yeah, all of us, you know, me, Johnny, Laura, Sarah, Ben, all of us, 7 years old, we all know that there's a little packet of Haribos in one layer, then you go another layer down, there's another packet of Haribos, there's several of those, and then there's a fucking toy at the bottom of it. So let's just like unwrap a layer, get to the Haribos, okay, let's keep it going. Keep it going. And so some kids just take for fucking ever. And it's like, come on, I want to get my chance of, at the very least, a Haribo. If I leave that game and Pass the Parcel without a Haribo, I'm pissed.
I hear you, brother.
Oh, man. Outrageous.
For Christmas this year, we played a game of Pass the Parcel, and my godson was there. So it was mainly for him, basically. And
But secretly, you were like, "Oh, fucking."
No, I didn't care. I was kind of drunk at the time.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to keep drinking. But the first time that I had ever actually really been put in charge of the music of this game, and oh my god, like the magic got sucked out of it, and like I was just, going round, and I'm like, oh, I guess he didn't have a present before. I'll stop it now. I'm like, what is this game? This isn't a game. This is just like a slow release of presents. It's just stupid.
This is terrible.
And
Rubbish.
Then I just let it stop on. Wait, did I let it? I think
Did you pause it on yourself?
I was playing, yeah.
I would just pause it on myself.
I rubbed it in his face as well. Like I definitely like. He was being a little. I won't lie. He was being a little bit of a shit about it. And he was like, moving it really slowly when it was on him. So I'm like, no, the music's still playing, mate. It's still playing. And you know when it's going to stop? When I've got the present. That's
I'm fucking right.
So I've got written down as a beef the fact that they were looking for the sharpenings. So basically, the murderer wrote a letter to the press and
in red pencil.
Yeah, and they figured out loads of shit about the murderer based off the handwriting, which is fine.
That's graphology.
Thank you. That exists. That's a thing. Yep. I'm not upset about that.
Okay.
It's the fact that they went to this house pretending to be something else. I think they pretended to be like a taxman or something. Yeah. And this guy's just like looking around the tables and stuff for sharpenings, and it's like, bro, you don't know where he wrote that. Like, you're looking at a table, and eventually they figure out that they were looking in the wrong place, and they do find it. And the only reason why I can kind of accept it is because he wrote it on a windowsill, where maybe, fair enough, you wouldn't clean as often as like a table surface or something. Like, it could be on the corner or just in the crack of the window, which is where I think they kind of find it. The little sharpenings. Yeah. So the only place where in my mind it's mildly acceptable that would still be there.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were just like searching this house for pencil sharpenings, it just like anyone could have a fucking red pencil. That doesn't mean anything.
Mate, every single one of the best lead the best idea that the police came up with was looking at all of because they realised that this guy must be a psychopath.
Yeah,
he's got no method to his madness. He writes in red pencil, so that leads to some stuff. The graphologist was saying a bunch of things like, "Oh, it shows clear signs of insanity." Some of it felt a little bit reaching for me, but like,
yeah, definitely.
But all signs lead to them.
But then also, this is 1930s, so it's potentially there's science behind that particular form of investigation.
Right.
Was not as accurate as it may be today.
Fair. So they said, all right, let's go to the asylums and stuff and get the records of everyone who's been released on safe, like they're deemed safe and fine, so they can go into society. Let's get all of them and find out all their addresses and everything. So they started going to all these addresses, and turns out the first one that they went to was the one that ended up being the murderer. But let's face it, Jordan, everything else that they did, almost everything, was just not going to be conducive towards them working out who the child murderer was.
No, I don't think
what the crooks were doing was far more thorough.
Yeah,
and that's definitely the best way to find this guy, because you simply don't have the technology back in the day.
They just did not have the technology.
No,
they could not rebuild him.
I definitely don't think so. No one was giving any accurate information about what they thought someone looked like. Why did the police not just station people at sweet shops? Because that was
Yeah,
that was a consistent trait.
Yeah. Like he kept on buying kids like sweets and stuff. Like, why are you not questioning every single person that buys a child a sweet?
Right.
Like every shop owner, you now have a duty of care to ID and figure out who it is that is buying sweets for children.
Yeah.
Like, that's not hard. It doesn't take long. Like, just, excuse me, what's your name? Can I just see some ID? Yeah, no problem. Just write that down. Done.
Like, so many of the things was that, like, the police were like, oh, yeah, no one likes us because, you know, we're stopping their business. And it's like, well, okay.
Oh, fuck off, though.
But there's a child murderer.
Your police, it doesn't matter if you're liked or not.
What was the fucking deal with the police just going in checking people's IDs? Because they're not doing anything with that.
What are they trying to do with that?
I mean, I wanted to ask you this because your parents are both detectives.
But what are they, what?
So I want you to answer that question.
Okay, right. So they just lined up loads of criminals, didn't they? And asked for their IDs.
Yeah.
So fucking
No,
hell.
you can't just ask the question back to me, Jordan. I'm asking you the question. What's the answer of this question?
I don't know, Kieran. I don't know what the answer is.
Because
it doesn't make any sense.
Because like the whole time, like all of the detectiving they were doing and all the policing they were doing before the crooks got involved was, let's just check people's IDs and let me see your papers. Are you official? Are you legit? Like
maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was just a case of trying to find if they had records on everyone that they'd round up, and if they could at least sort of pin down what their recent movements have been. You know, like, you should be on probation, you shouldn't be here.
That's fucking bullshit. If it takes a child murderer to get your admin in check, that's terrible. They should be on top of that.
Well, no, but like that's the point, isn't it? Like,
maybe that's the secret behind this whole film. Maybe the real message of this film is that let's not let things get too dark before we keep our stuff together. Let's make sure that our records are up to date before a child murderer gets on the case, because you're going to want it to be in check.
I don't know. I think there's never been a more clear message in a film, considering that it literally gives you the message at the end of the film.
Yeah, to be
like
fair.
Basically spoken to you.
Yeah.
And by the fact that it actually ends up saying you. We should take more care of our children. You.
No, I don't think that's the message of the film.
I think it is.
Well, I think it's that, but
you struggle to convince me otherwise.
Okay, for me, the message of the film is: can you sentence someone to death who is not in control of their actions?
That is a theme of the film.
Well, I feel like it's the other way around.
Okay, all right.
That's fair enough. I feel like we're pretty much in the same ballpark. Yeah. And also, the whole "you should look after your kids better" is like, well, that's also victim blaming.
That sounds like a very 1930s message. Yeah. I can imagine that being very... Whereas the other message of maybe some people can't control the things that they do.
That's pretty woke, isn't it?
That sounds very like forward thinking.
So this is something I'd like to bring up a little bit more in the bits and bobs.
Okay.
To have a serious conversation, but try and keep it lighthearted.
But that's kind of all my beefs. So
okay, I've got a few more.
Okay.
The way that so many things got escalated, like there was one old man who I think like asked a kid for the time or something like that, and she responded to him. And some women were like being suspicious, and some copper went over to him, and the guy was like being like, "Hey, I've done nothing." And the police was like, Are you the child murderer? Are you? Because if you're the child murderer," and then like suddenly 20 people swarm around him. Then a fucking massive riot of people just launch themselves around this guy, accusing him of being the child murderer. It's like, fucking calm down.
This is still a thing, right? Like, I was watching Peep Show the other day, and there's a bit where Mark
I'm wondering
is saying,
how this is at all related.
No, it is related, trust me. There's a bit where Mark is saying that he's a paedophobe, and what he means by that is he's scared of people thinking that he's a paedophile. Because, like, he's like,
I get it.
I don't want to talk to children because I think people will think that I'm a paedophile. And that's such a legit thing. I definitely know there's so many people that are like, will feel uncomfortable around children because they don't want people to think that they're a paedophile.
Yeah.
Like, they are not paedophiles. There's no reason to think that they are. But people will, like, latch onto things and, you know, like, and look at things from an angle that maybe isn't quite correct.
Which is fair enough. To be honest, I'd rather it be that way around than the other way around, where everyone thinks that everyone's fine and there's Jimmy Savile. Fun times.
True. Yeah, to be fair.
At 21 minutes and 1 second, like, there's been silence for about a good 30 seconds. and then there's a whistle, that fucking loud whistle that comes out of nowhere. So if you're going to watch this film on Amazon Prime or anywhere else,
Set a timer.
Set a timer for 20 well, I wouldn't say set it for 21 minutes because then you've got 1 second to take your earphones out. But like,
oh shit!
No, so set it for like, I don't know, 22 minutes and no, because then you're late. 20 minutes and 50 seconds, and then you'll be fine. Actually, I think that's all of my beefs because the other ones are kind of bits and bobs. So do you want to hit me with some bits and bobs?
It's kind of, this is a good bridge, I guess, from beefs to bits and bobs.
Okay.
It was how the film was different from current films in the way that when you were reading the note in the newspaper, you just hung up on the note for ages.
So it allowed you to actually read the thing.
Yeah, it gave you like loads of time to do it.
I've got time for that. I really enjoy that.
And it was the fact that it was also silent. It just felt really strange to me. And it was like,
hey, read this thing.
It was just like, here's a note on a newspaper. And then just about a minute of just looking at that. Even though the subtitles read it out to you whilst he was writing the note. So you already knew what the note said.
Yeah, but they're not just going to chop the film like by 5 seconds.
But that's what I mean. It's like the film is different in as much as nowadays you would have just got the subtitles of when he was writing the film and writing the note in the first bit. You wouldn't have seen the note again. The fact that you just saw the note twice is what I'm saying. It's really like, look, people might not have caught that, so let's just give them, look, fuck it, let's just give them it for a minute as well again.
And also because the guy's handwriting was a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Did you notice how soft and supple his hands looked?
I guess I did. Now I think about it.
When he was writing it, it was like, okay, so this is clearly the murderer. Because you can see it's writing, I am writing to the press because the police ignored my letter, blah. Now it's just like, this guy has really soft hands.
That guy loves a manicure.
I can't tell they're soft because I can't feel them, but they look very soft.
Right. I know what you mean.
I'd like to feel them. Like shake his hand, just so I know, just to confirm.
This is just making my brain go in places that I don't want to say the things that my brain is saying.
Okay.
Because it's just a little bit. The darkness of the humor is not my style, but I have a mate who has this dark sense of humor,
right?
And I'm always like, okay, I see that you made a joke.
Okay,
and I don't find it funny.
You've like done a good job of establishing that it's humor that isn't normally popping into your head. So why don't you just give us it, because everyone's going to be dying to know.
Well, you just have to dress up as a kid, and then he'll be able to touch you anytime you like.
Okay,
there you go.
Thank you.
So where did the word extra come from with regards
just to clarify? I don't want him to touch me.
You want to touch him?
Yeah, I just want to feel his hands.
It still doesn't sound good. Because is there a single part of someone's body that you can say, I just want to touch your, and it sounds okay?
Ooh.
I don't think there is.
Yeah, for a second then I was like, hair, but that's definitely not.
No, it's definitely not a thing. I think hands are probably the least offensive thing. But then still, if I say to you, Jordan, I just want to touch your hands.
I recently did sexual harassment training at work, and it says that shaking hands is generally a widely acceptable thing to do.
Yeah. So, okay. I just want to shake his hand. If you say, I just want to shake the child murderer's hand,
well, the difference
that sounds like I just want to congratulate him on a job well done.
It's in the language, isn't it? It's like, if I say I want to shake his hand, you've got no issues with that. But if I say I want to touch his hands, then it starts to sound strange.
No, I've got issues with I want to shake his hand, because that makes it sound as if like, oh, I want to show him my respect for him.
Right. No, but I want to shake the actor's hand. Maybe I'm just impressed by the actor.
There we go.
Because I don't want to shake the child murderer's hand.
You just want to shake soft hand? Is that what you want?
I just want to feel the hand, yeah.
Lovely. So, yeah, going back to, if I may, to extra.
Extra.
Yeah. Where the fuck does that come from? Because it was like extra news. Extra information?
I think maybe it was, maybe that you have your normal newspapers that come out,
and then there's a bonus
and then there's
one.
like, shit, this just happened, this just in, breaking news, extra, extra. Maybe that would be my guess anyway.
You know what? I had absolutely
we don't need that
ideas.
these days, because we've just got Twitter and we've got the actual internet, and it can give us breaking news. We don't need like a little boy with a flat cap running around saying extra.
I would really like for the news bulletins. I'm subscribed to all of them because I can't stand them. But if I was to have news bulletins on my phone, that if it was
you don't like getting news updates?
No, because it just fucking fills me with anxiety to know that somewhere else has been bombed in the world.
Oh, just stop following newspapers that are telling you about bombings.
What, and just start following like film updates?
The Daily Star, mate.
I do not want any of that bullshit in my life.
What a shit paper.
Mate. No, like I would really like it if
basically pornography with words.
Oh, Jesus. It was so gross.
Sounded like a 50-year-old man there. It's basically pornography with words.
I would like it to be like the logo of the app, of the news app, is a little kid with a flat cap.
That would be great.
And the notification sound goes, extra! That would be brilliant.
Right.
I'd really like that.
I'm a little bit less on board with that because I feel like that would just be really fucking annoying. You're just at work and then your phone's like, extra.
But it's said like that as opposed to being extra. It's like, extra. It's better than...
Or if it's just Siri. Extra. That was a really bad Siri impression. Extra.
Read all about it.
Extra. Read all about it. Okay.
I'd really like it if like every single...
Here is your news update, Jordan.
Or like, let's say you subscribed for some weird reason to the Evening Standard newspaper.
Yeah.
And every single time you opened it on your smart device, said the granddad.
Said the 50-year-old. We're just two old geezers.
Every time you opened it, it just goes, standard. like when those geezers that hand them out at tube stations.
Yeah.
Standard. Anyway, tankards with lids. Did you see that?
Yes, I want me one.
That was fucking cool.
That was incredible, yeah.
So these are like proper Steiners, aren't
Literally, it must be because of smoking. That's the only reason.
Because there's so much smoke and ash everywhere.
There was some scenes where you could barely make out what was going on because the whole room was just full of smoke. Because they've obviously like had to film it a couple of times or something, and the room's just getting smokier and smokier each time.
But the way they were smoking was almost on vape levels.
Yeah, and like they weren't smoking cigarettes. They were all smoking either cigars or smoking these fucking giant cigarettes in like little cone tube things.
I don't know what the fuck was going on, but it was impressive.
There was a scene where they were lining up loads of smoked cigarettes, weren't they?
Some
I think they were
like
trying to figure it out. Yeah, they all looked like fat joints or something.
Interesting,
to say the least.
Now, when I mentioned earlier the crooks had a conversation and the police were having a conversation at the same time, where the leader of both organizations was saying, "Okay, guys, what do you recommend?" And they were spitballing ideas. I fucking loved this transition, and I reckon film buffs at the time must have been jizzing over this so hard when they saw there were two moments where they must have been having an absolute bomb. Was when the crook says, "Okay, I'm opening the floor to you," and he does this kind of like open gesture hand wave, right? And the policeman does the exact same thing, and like they cut at the same time. But it's not as if it's like they just repeat the motion. One person does it, and then the other person does it.
Yeah,
when they make the cut, it's like a precisely
So where you see the crook's hand gesture end is where the police officers begins, and it's
like halfway through the motion. And
nice.
Mate, it just looks so slick. And the other one was when the camera goes towards a window, and then it just goes, as opposed to just lingering on the outside of the window because a camera can't go through glass, it just goes straight into the room. And I reckon that might have been like fucking...
Well, where they've just cut it and then opened the window and started again from that position.
No. Because actually, I did see a little tiny glimmer of light just zip across the screen. And I reckon they might have just super quickly taken some glass out of the way. But people who aren't used to that must have been like, how the fuck do they get from outside of the building to inside the building, and now they're inside the room? Like, did the camera just go through a wall? What the hell?
See, but could that glimmer of light not be like a splicing of two scenes?
Maybe, but what I'm saying is that it wasn't very smooth for us in 2019.
No,
but at the time or / in the day,
at the top of the morning,
there must have been like, Scheiße, is gut, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the full name of this film is...
M.
Well, or in German, it's Eine Stadt sucht einen Mörder, which means a city is looking for a killer.
Oh, that's a pretty shit name, isn't it?
Yeah, so...
It's kind of like gives... If the image of the film doesn't give it away, then that title definitely does.
Yeah. But the reason it's called M is because the guy puts chalk on his hand in the shape of an M, and that's the thing that goes on the guy's coat. So there you go.
I'm just thinking of some other films if they did that sort of title, like Home Alone. A boy is at home and crooks come and he's fine.
No, but I think it should be shorter than that. Jurassic Park. There's dinosaurs where there shouldn't be.
An ogre lives in a swamp and then has to leave.
Somebody once told me.
Hey now. On the on the note of the Union of the Beggars, I found out that actually that was a real thing in Berlin at the time.
So it was?
Yeah.
Is this Berlin, by the way?
Well, I don't know, but I just read in Berlin that was a real thing. Okay. Yeah. And another
That's
little...
weird, though. That's so German, by the way.
Yeah. Union of Beggars.
That even the people who are on the street...
It's just like that efficiency. Even the beggars have unionised.
Yeah, they are efficiently homeless.
Yeah. Just another snippet of context as well. Interesting for the time period, because we've obviously mentioned quite a few times about the Nazis. So the Nazis came to power in, I believe, 1933.
Yeah.
And they banned this film in 1934. And it remained locked away until 1966.
So that's probably when it got the worst quality, when they retrieved it in 66.
When they retrieved it, when it came out on VHS, as it were.
Would it have been VHS at the time? I don't think so.
Or video, or just whatever.
They just on big reels. They should have had it on big old reels.
Yeah, but once it started getting... In 1966 it was sort of like re-released in cinemas, I think, and then once it came out in film is when they started adding
the sound effects
and music, and then obviously they changed it back.
I was really into the silence stuff. I got really dragged into it, and I was super into it.
Yeah, shamefully, I can't seem to deal with that. It just pissed me off too much. I just know it. It pulled me out of it because I was too aware of the fact that there was no music.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. If we can, my last bit and bob is the slightly serious thing.
Okay.
Of the whole, can you sentence a man to death for committing crimes that he's not mentally responsible for?
Okay.
Versus let's punish the person who has been killing children.
Yeah.
So, in my view, punish the person who did the thing.
Right.
Because they did the crime.
Yeah.
So that is the law. If the law is in place to punish people for doing stupid things or for doing things that are against the law. So that person did something that was against the law, therefore they should be punished for it. Now, the way they get punished, I'm not down with execution, because I actually feel like it would be worse for that person to spend the whole of their lives in a really horrible prison cell than for them to
without a doubt,
to die just straight off the bat. Like, there should be no...
Die straight off the bat. Well, I mean, if you're being sentenced to death by bat, that's pretty
rough,
bad as well.
Yeah. But at least they have some kind of pain. Anyway, but what the guy was saying is like...
I just want to establish you were the one that wanted to keep this lighthearted.
Yeah, that's the one. That's me. But if this guy was saying it's not my fault, so this guy clearly has some kind of mental illness. He has some kind of condition. Okay, fair enough. And I understand that. I could see that there were people in the crooks and stuff who were empathizing with him, as far as I can understand that there's impulses that you can't get rid of. And he was saying, like, how are you all much better than me? I know that you over there have been convicted of 3 murders, and I know that you blah, 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 and you're all too lazy to get actual real jobs.
I love when he said that, when he was like, and I know that you've been convicted of, you're wanted for 3 murders. He's like, that has nothing to do with this yet.
And it's a little bit like, well, okay, you should, everyone who has murdered people should probably get taken down for it. I'm just gonna go out there and say you should probably get taken down for that. It's only fair. Like, come on, guys, it's only fair. It's only fair.
Hard to argue with that.
So that whole debate for me, I was watching it and I was like, okay, I think the acting's legit, and I like this scene, and I like what it's doing, and I'm invested. But at the same time, I definitely know where I stand. Like, I don't feel like one way, or I don't feel like on the fence about. For once, I don't feel on the fence about a particular decision. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure he should just get chucked straight into a nasty part of a mental hospital to make sure he stayed there for his whole life and he wasn't released, because the guy was in a mental hospital. He got released and then he started killing more people.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's definitely keep him there.
I mean, there's a couple of questions that I could ask about it. I think I mostly agree with you. I just have a few sort of things that make that I wonder, things that I think about, I suppose.
Things that I think about.
Mainly, I suppose, around what responsibility society has for people for people that have that sort of situation, because it reminded me. I remember listening on the radio once or on a podcast about a lady who was defending people that were attracted to children, because it was the similar situation in which they felt that they didn't have any control over who they were attracted to, and they felt very, very. They knew that it was wrong, but they couldn't help that they were attracted to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then society obviously just writes it off as it's just wrong and doesn't offer them any support. And that's where my question is like, to what degree does society have a responsibility to offer support to people like that?
I feel like society should still offer support, because if a person has, like, it could be that, it could be any different thing. Like they have a compulsion to do something. If the person doesn't recognize that it's an issue, then they should be dealt with, and they should be like more severely, to the point where it's like, you can't tell that what you're doing is wrong, so we either have to lock you up or something. But if someone wants to be rehabilitated, then there's more support that, I guess, like, I don't know if holistic is the word, but like there's softer support that can be provided for that person to make sure that they can still have a life. But there's definite things that, like, there's barriers in place for them to work in certain places. For example, like, DBS is, like, the Disclosure and Barring Service is there to make sure that people who have had any convictions or any dealings with kids and stuff, where that's gone wrong, that they don't work in places where there's going to be kids again. But those people, I reckon in today's world, if someone said, I've got an issue with kids, to like their therapist, and their therapist was like, yeah, this person's got an issue with kids, they know it's wrong, and me, Mr. Therapist person, Mrs. Therapist person, I can absolutely write down on paper, black and white, this person's on their path to recovery, but they still know that this is an issue, then there might be some kind of organization that organizes that person to have consistent work. It's not as if they've just been dejected and left, because if you just make them an outcast even more, whereas if you involve them in society, don't forgive them, I don't feel like you should forgive someone for like potential, like, for acting upon any of that stuff.
So maybe it's a case though of how do we make it so that people are able to seek help before they do act on it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
because you're right. Like, once it's happened, that is pretty unforgivable, and then it just puts it in a whole other ballpark. If someone's coming to you and saying, in this example, I've killed a child and I can't help it, like, I feel compelled to do it.
Katy Perry, I killed a child and I liked it. Yeah.
Fucking hell. Compared to someone who comes to you and says, I have something inside of me that is telling me to kill children, like, please help me.
Yeah, then there's hypnotherapy and there's support. Yeah, I think so. Because there must be loads of other stuff that people have ingrained in them from childhood and trauma,
the comparison
and whatever else.
That just keeps coming up in my head is how society deemed homosexuality to be completely wrong and, like, a punishable offence, until we sort of understood maybe it's not so much about a choice, and that
there's nothing. No one's being harmed by homosexuality.
Well, yeah, but they're not making the choice to do that.
Yes. Again, with my thing with I can't remember when it was, what film we were talking about. If someone's doing something that harms someone else, this was Paths of Glory again. No matter what that person's going through, if they're doing something to harm someone else, I'm not on board with it. So with homosexuality, that person is who they are, and they're not harming anyone else.
Exactly. That's obviously where the analogy ends,
right? Because they might be who they are.
It's not about harming a person. It's just a sexual preference, but this one is obviously about killing children, which is a much more serious situation. Well, it is a serious situation, whereas homosexuality isn't.
It's sexuality. It's just a different thing. Yeah. It's not a crime. So keeping it light and fluffy.
I think we managed to paddle through that, maybe.
Yes, I really wanted to bring that up because that felt for me like a really huge theme in the film.
Yeah, I agree. Like what we said earlier, it's interesting that was a theme brought up in 1931.
Yeah.
Before Hitler killed millions and millions of Jews.
That's pretty... Wow, yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's like, before that had even happened, this happened. Like, that was a question that was being
brought up or a topic that was being spoken about.
Yeah,
crazy.
Pretty much. Now, Jordan, who would you be in the film?
I would probably be the main criminal guy.
Okay, yeah.
And I would try and have more interaction with the police, or like getting beggars involved with the police, like trying to piggyback off of their findings as well, to try and come to a quicker capturing of the guy.
I don't know, because I feel like it would have made it messy.
Steal their evidence.
I think that would have just made it really messy.
Well, I feel like just have a mole, to find out just if there's little snippets and stuff.
No, but they did, because they were.
Oh, did I miss that?
Yeah. Because the crooks, when they had their little meeting, they were saying that because the people that they have on the inside for the police are the girlfriends of the policemen. That's what they said, and they're like, yeah, they're not bringing any good evidence. They're bringing shit all, because the policemen don't actually fucking know anything anyway.
Okay. All right, then I'd be the little girl at the start and play Ip Dip Doo properly.
You play If Libby Dibby properly.
Play Ip Flibby Dibby. What about you?
There's a point where there's the three men who there's three of the crooks who are chasing after the child murderer before he goes into the building, and it feels like they're just staring at him at one point. It's like, well, just fucking rush the guy. Just jump on him and catch him. Like, maybe there's not a lot of substantial evidence that this person is the child murderer, but like, I don't know. I feel like they would spend a lot of time just looking at him, trying to figure out who it was. But the guy was running away, so that feels like
just rush him.
Yeah,
not enough rushing in this film.
Yeah,
it's far too German.
Well done.
Thank you. Do
you know who he would bring? Because I know who I'd bring.
Go for it.
Right, in The Pianist, there's the point where, oh shit, what's his name? Oh, Vladek. Yes, is that his name?
Oh, is that what, the pianist?
The pianist himself.
Right.
when he's still in Vienna?
Maybe. It's been a while.
Okay, yeah, it has been a while. When he's still in, I'm going to say Vienna with a bit more confidence. He's still in Vienna, and there's like half of the city is like beautiful in colour and everything, and then the other half is still the ghetto. And they're building up the ghetto. They're bricking it up and stuff. They're being like builders in Vienna. People have either been sent to concentration camps or they've been kept in Vienna to work. And amongst those people who have been kept to work, there's one old man and a bunch of little kids.
Yeah.
Who, I don't know, haven't been sent to the concentration camps or something. And this old man is like some kind of clowny, jokey person who distracts the kids from the horror of their lives. And he, in fact, makes one of the Nazis laugh, and the Nazi like gives him a penny or something. And because like this clown guy goes up to him and he's like, "Ooh, attention!" and everything. He's kind of taking the piss a little bit, but it's all in jest and it's funny. And I just felt like that clowny, super happy-go-lucky person would be lovely in this German city, because his responsibility could be to round up the kids supervised by the police.
I was about to say, that guy's getting rushed.
yeah. Because I was thinking also there's the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh yeah, I'll bring him in. I'll bring him in to partner up with the child murderer.
Okay,
they'll get loads of kids. No, like
Keiran, you just keep taking these really dark turns, mate. I'm a little bit worried.
It's fine. Don't worry, I've got a hold on it. No, it's really okay.
I'm seeing a person. It's
fine. So to have this kind of clowning person come in. Working with the police put a job post out there hiring a clown to assist us in the supervision of kids in the neighborhood, play some jokey music, take the piss out of the army, and we'll give you a penny. And then that person comes in, does the job fine, and that way the kids stay in one place as opposed to potentially being picked off by a random stranger.
Okay,
that's my strategy.
That's pretty good. You're saving lives.
Just doing my bit.
Yeah,
just doing my bit. Who'd you bring in?
I would bring Will Smith.
Okay. Break glass for emergency Will Smith.
Very much so. From Men in Black, and I'm going to neuralize the child murderer. So that
it's such a cop out. It's such a cop out.
How is that a cop out?
Because
he's saying that he's got these issues. He's got this compelling thing inside of him telling him to kill children.
But you don't know how deep it goes.
Flash. You don't want to kill kids anymore. See you later. Done. But I mean, they're still dead, and he should probably still go to prison. but he's no longer going to be a danger to society. He could be reformed.
One, you've already brought the neuralizer in.
Okay, I'm sorry. How many times have I done Darth Vader and Batman? Like, there are just some people that should be in every film.
And I brought in Fireman Sam twice.
Yes,
Okay, fair
you
enough.
brought Fireman Sam into...
Why'd you say Fireman Sam? What's your problem?
Fireman Sam.
Fireman Sam. What's your
It's
issue?
not Fireman Sam.
How did you say fireman?
Fireman.
No, Jordan. No, it's
The
fireman.
fireman gets into the fire truck.
No. We
Oh,
disagree.
look at those firemen.
Yeah, fireman.
Yeah.
But there's one
Oh,
fireman.
well, I was a fireman for quite a few years.
I was a fireman for quite a few years.
Nah.
No,
Nah.
I'm not agreeing with you. Okay, we're not on board with each other right now. This is ridiculous.
I'm trying to think of literally any... Like, you don't say Spider-Man or Batman.
No, that's because there's a hyphen
Superman.
between... No, but what about policeman?
Policeman.
Fuck off. You've never said policeman.
I've always said police.
No.
Well, actually, Kieran, it's police officer to start with.
Sorry, sir.
No, we live in 2019 and police officers can be female as well.
You got me.
Yes. You
Got
sexist pig.
him. Shit. Okay. Damn. All right. Yeah. Cool. So I'd bring in. Oh yeah, you'd bring in.
See, you liked it that much that you wanted to steal it for yourself.
You'd bring in. Who is it? You bring in Will Smith.
The Fireman Sam.
Now, Jordan, would you stay indoors to watch M?
Absolutely not.
Really?
No, fucking hated it.
I totally would. I'd recommend it.
It's interesting purely from a historical perspective. I was just like, this film's really fucking old, and it's interesting to see what the thought process is back then. And especially from a German film, 'cause I haven't seen that many German films. But other than that, I found it incredibly boring.
Fair enough. Because the points where it was just like, there's no sound effects, came across as arty to me. And
Okay.
I was into it. There were some things that I definitely had to get past. For example, some of the visual quality wasn't great, and also a lot of the subtitles were like they were the same color as the things that were in the background.
Okay,
so
yeah, that's
sometimes
always
they were
annoying.
hard to read.
I still have that issue with Netflix though. Like that's just some films have white backgrounds and
And the subtitles are in white as well.
white. Yeah.
Yeah. It's dumb.
Also, Amazon, you can change the color and the boldness and the thickness and the font of subtitles. Netflix, like up your game, man.
Yeah, you've mentioned this before, but I was watching M on Amazon Prime, and because it seems the subtitles are like ingrained into the film, like it didn't have its
You can't
own
do anything
subtitles.
about that, yeah.
So yeah, whatever.
I mean, 1931.
Right?
Right.
Cool. So I will stay indoors, and Jordan will stay outdoors.
Yep, I'm gonna go and have an ice cream.
Lovely. Okay. Very, very nice.
It's nice and sunny today.
Good choice.
Thanks.
So Jordan, next week we're going to be watching the film Warrior.
Yes, we are.
We're finally taking a jump into nearer to the present day.
Thank you for sticking with us through this fucking arduous journey of old films. We just had to like knock a few out, get them out of the way.
Yeah, because there's a fair few more of them in there, and we might even have another point where we're gonna have a few more old films. But
We're gonna try and space them out a bit more though.
yeah, Jordan and I have decided that there's going to be no film before 1960. There's going to be no two of them in a row. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So join us next week for Warrior.
Warrior!
Bye.
Bye.
I can't believe it. We finally got to the last episode.
No, we're not saving this one for all the way until then. The last episode of today. Maybe this is the last one you're going to be listening until you go to bed. So sweet dreams. But just before you go to sleep, just so you know, you can send an email to 250reasons@gmail.com with a 15-second pitch of your own that you can chuck in your voice memos. You can send us any kind of communication on 250 Reasons on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can do whatever you like. Buy some peaches, eat some, get juicy, and then you can. What the fuck?
No.
I don't know what's going on there, but you can subscribe to us wherever you found this episode. Just press the button subscribe. Leave a lovely 5-star review on that podcatcher of your choice. Anything else, Jordan?
No, thank you.
Get peaches.
Bye.